But these children, are they getting a fair start in life?
No.
Can they rise and become the equivalent of Einstein? AIMS is one institution I'm a member of, or I've just joined their board, which is the African Institute for Medicine Science, run by Professor Turok. But if some of these kids are not getting nutrition at that early stage, even if you have an institution such as AIMS that offers them an opportunity to come when they're ready to go to university, they'll never reach that stage. Right. Land. Right, sorry. According to the Department of Land Affairs, 75% of land in South Africa remains in white hands. 73% of agricultural land remains in white hands. Anecdotal evidence shows that most of tribal land remains in the hands of men. Dear colleagues, when we're dealing with social injustice and when we're dealing with the dream of social justice, we're looking at fairness and justice for all. Not just in terms of color, but in terms of gender as well, in terms of age and everything. In one village that I will not mention, because we're still going to engage with them, we discovered something that shocked me. I worked a lot on gender issues, and I used to work with the Rural Women's Movement when I was a researcher at Birds. And I'm an expert on customary law. That was not meant to brag. Although Professor Thandabantu Nhlapho and I are responsible for chapter 12 and some of the provisions there. The reason I mention this is that I was horrified that in that village, according to the information we got, there is expropriation without compensation. There's land expropriation without compensation every day.
Right.
They said it happens in two ways. The first way is the Indunas and some of the Amakosis say that if your land is not utilized for 2 years,
It's true.
it reverts back to the Induna. Well, I'm still looking for a law that says that, and I did promise them that I'm going to engage with the Department of Land Affairs, because the last time I checked customary law, there was no such a thing. The second thing was that if your father dies, if your father had been given the land, because you have a user right, you have a title, which is, it's not ownership, it's a usufruct. You have a right to use. Currently in that place, if your father dies, that right expires with the death of the father. So the one story I was told, which I still have to verify, was that the father died having planted sugar cane. So the sugar cane was still there, and when he was dead, the son then went to inform the Inkosi that he needs to harvest the sugar cane. And he was told that no, the sugar cane is no longer yours. The title is now reverted to Inkosi. If this is true, it's not funny. It's a violation of the Constitution. It's a violation of the law, even the old law, because Section 25, which protects the right to property, it includes all property rights, including rights that are less than ownership. So, but that's a question, are we socially just today? I could go on and on and on about areas of social justice. But one that I should mention, because we're in the 4th Industrial Revolution, is the question of connectivity. We were in Soweto, Dlamini, where the young people said to us, we are talented and we're ready. And I liked that language, because that's defining themselves positive. And indeed, whilst we were there, they were telling us about a whole lot of businesses that they were running. But one of the problems they have is connectivity. So we're all happy about the 4th Industrial Revolution, but connectivity is going to exacerbate existing inequality if we don't think about it. And we saw that most universities are now saying applications should be digital, apply online. Some schools, grade 1s, also say that. But what happens to the Gogo Dlaminis who don't have access to a computer? I've been to schools where a child has never seen a computer, let alone touch one. So why should you care if there are all these injustices that exist? Why should you care about fees must fall? Well, the flame of democracy is under threat. Do you agree? Yes. A lot of citizens are increasingly disengaging from democracy. A lot of citizens are becoming consumers of democracy. We want the politicians to fix it. If they don't fix it, we're going to break something. Yeah. A lot of them are resorting to extremism. We could all complain and say this is deplorable. I'm sure there's no single person in this room who thinks it's okay to be violent. We know that violence is the language of the disempowered. But it's still deplorable. But if we howl at them, aren't we similar to a person, a captain at sea who howls at the wind? And the wind, will it stop if you howl at it? It's not going to stop. Because as long as there's injustice somewhere, there can't be sustainable peace anymore. Most people, when things go wrong today, ask, what is government doing about it? Isn't it? We ask, what is government doing about it? But what about me and you? Well, there's a young fellow in the 60s, long before God thought about bringing some of you to this world. He was white, he was Protestant, he was middle class, but he was concerned about racism in America. He was concerned about the fracture between groups. I just felt that it was unpleasant and dangerous. he decided to do something about it. And the one tool he had in his hand was poetry. So he wrote a poem, The Cold Within. Has any of you read it? Find it. It's just in summary, it talks about 6 people that happens to be together on a very cold, dark night. Between them, there's a fire that is dying. All 6 of them have a log or piece of wood that they could throw into the fire and get it to burn again. All 6 of them look around, they find somebody in the room they think does not deserve to benefit from their log. And they decide not to use their log to revive the fire. The first one, according to James Patrick Kenny, was white. He looked around, he saw a black man, and he thought, no, this black person can't benefit from that. The next one saw somebody not from their church. He doesn't even say a different religion, he says church, so which means Christian. And he said, this person is not from my church, will not benefit from my log. Then there was a rich person who saw a poor person and thought, lazy poor, they can't get my log. The poor person, not knowing what the rich person is thinking, thought, a rich person can't get my log. A black person looked at all of these white people and saw an opportunity for revenge. And said, these people have exploited me and my people for a long time. They're not going to get my log. He kept it. The last person is that person that we all know. We all know one friend or relative will never do anything but for gain, you know? I call that person a mercenary. So he looked at these people and thought, there's no chance that they will pay me, and he kept his log. So the following day, according to James Patrick Kenny, they were all dead, and they were all still holding onto their log with their hands still in death. Cold. And he says they did not die from the cold without. They died from the cold within. So what can we learn from this poem and the challenge of social justice and the consequences of social injustice? Well, you heard from me already about the pattern of continuing social injustice in the country. You also know that a lot of those people are angry. One thing we know is that when they're angry, they ban anything. Sociologists now have come up with a new term that when people are hungry, they tend to be angry. In Zulu we say, indlala,
Bangula.
I'm told that it was Bob Marley who came up with this song about hunger and anger. So the new term from sociologists is hangry. People are hangry. Now, you know yourself that when somebody is hangry, reason flows out of the door. You can engage with people, but reason flows out of the door. I do appeal, of course, to our people who are hungry and angry, not to go around breaking things. Because, for example, in the Western Cape, people burnt a fire station. Now, if we need that fire station, it can be needed by the very same people. In this case, you get a sense that James Patrick Kenny should have added, a seventh person, the one who doesn't even just withhold their log. They destroy the remainder of the fire because they don't want somebody to benefit. But again, as I've said, social injustice is a reality. Whose fault is it then that it still exists? And does it matter? During Mandela's birthday yesterday, a lot of time was spent on talking about his legacy. Did he sell out or did he not sell out? Will that improve our situation? Imagine if those people sitting around the fire started asking questions. Who's responsible for the fire that is dying? Would they ended up with a better fire? No, isn't it? My own conclusion, based on the Constitution, dear colleagues, is that there's no problem with the Constitution. It might not be the most perfect Constitution in the world. It's one of the best. There are better constitutions that have been created, such as Rwanda, where, for example, democracy does not mean only people are elected. Some groups who maybe people are not going to elect have reserved chairs. For example, young people, people with disabilities, etc. So it might not necessarily be the best. For example, how we articulated the Equality Clause, Section 9.2, I would say we could have articulated it the same as the value of equality, because in the value of equality, we do say equality is still to be achieved. In the Equality Clause, we say equality includes the adoption of measures, but we don't say those measures must be adopted. Why? Because it was obvious. If you say equality includes the adoption of measures to address imbalances of the past, it was a given that that's a substantive notion of equality. If you don't include the addressing of imbalances of the past, then you're not going to achieve equality. But perhaps that could have been made obvious. But that's not a train smash. All I'm saying is it's something that we can all talk about and understand. Where then does the fault lie, and whose fault is it? I'm sure a lot of you would like me to say it is whoever was the president in the last few years. Well, dear colleagues, I'm going to take away your cheese in that regard, because according to the Constitutional Court, in the EFF, there's the Speaker of the National Assembly, a case decided on the 31st of March 2016, the main culprit is Parliament. According to the Auditor General, the main culprit is Parliament. Because democracy, the architecture of a democracy is such that you have guardians of democracy, various levels. The courts are the ultimate guardians of democracy, but Parliament is the second ultimate guardian of democracy, because they perform oversight. So the Constitution has a very clear vision, there's a very clear architecture on how that vision is going to be achieved, and there's a lot of laws that have been passed during the Mandela Parliament to give meaning to that vision. So in the case of EFF versus Speaker of the National Assembly, the Constitutional Court, as the ultimate guardians of democracy, basically rebuked Parliament for failure to perform oversight, for failure to uphold and protect the Constitution. The case was about the powers of the court protector, but the real deal was about, it was a breach of ethics. There was a failure to act ethically on the part of the executive. We said social justice is about poverty and inequality. It's about eliminating those so that there's a fair distribution and just distribution of all opportunities and resources. In that Nkandla matter that ended up being about the powers of the court protector, there was a huge issue of social justice. Can you spend R250,000 on one person's needs with a good conscience? That was the key question. Is that conscionable? Is that ethical? Is that in line with the pursuit of a society where everyone's potential is freed and everyone's rights? So the decision of the court protector was that it was unconscionable. And the president had an opportunity to stop it because the Mail and Guardian broke the story in 2009 and we only investigated the matter in 2013. And he could have stopped it. He could have asked questions. And then we said, he unjustly benefited and should pay some of it. But another social justice story there is that when the funds for Nkandla ran out, money was taken from a project for urban renewal in Durban. This was to create jobs. This was to revive the cities. All of that money was taken to build and renovate someone's house in the name of security. For example, where I said they couldn't have a swimming pool as a fire pool, because they could have had a fire pool at a lower amount of money. When we went on site to look at the chicken run, a lot of the people who came with us asked, what is this? And if you had never seen the movie Chicken Run and seen that whole thing in the movie, you wouldn't know it's a chicken run. And I even asked the architect, why this? Nobody has this. They said, we saw it in England. Resources in England, resources in South Africa. But the essence of this case is Parliament was a guardian of democracy. So Parliament concerned itself with whether or not this is about the powers of the public, whether the public protector has the right to order, which the Constitutional Court eventually said the public protector has the right to order. In other words, it has hard power to force somebody to do something from king to president. But that was not the issue. The issue was, as members of the Parliament, you have to make sure that Section 195 of the Constitution is respected. That the public service operates with the highest level of professional ethics. That the resources we have in society are used in the public interest. And what would be the public interest? It would to make sure that Palesa Musa, the woman I spoke about, is enabled to do better. She already runs a business, but she needs assistance to scale that business so that she can have a sustainable income. They should have thought about that money could be used to prevent fees must fall, which eventually caught up with us. The children that we're talking about, who are growing up with underdeveloped brains, could get that money. But in Nkandla, I am about to finish. I selected the extreme. I could talk about many cases from municipalities, from people going to Italy and taking money, being given money in S&T, which is subsistence and travel money. And when they get to Italy, they say, please give us more money. And they send more money, and they come back with change, 50,000 rand. And the CFO asks, what should I do with the change? And the mayor says, distribute it among the leaders of the team. But the money had been taken on the understanding that food was too expensive in Italy. So if you haven't spent 50,000 rand and it belongs to the people of South Africa, logically it should go back. So we wrote a case that said free money for all, and we asked them to pay back the money, and they did. But I'm telling these stories about we all have a role to advance social justice. And if we haven't reached enough progress, it's all these little things that have happened or not happened to subvert democracy. A functional democracy is a democracy that works for all. And according to the Constitutional Court, Parliament had a responsibility to perform oversight. This is the EFF. When the state capture matter happened, again, the DA took and others took this matter to court, the North Gauteng court came up with the same issue, that Parliament had a duty to oversee, to make sure that constitutional obligations are met. But it also said the President and the Executive to have to ensure that they keep their obligations, they protect the Constitution. But let's forget about perversion of democracy through diversion of money, and just look at some of the things that have not been implemented. Section 25, the land question. Everyone wants expropriation without compensation. In a constitution that talks about building a society where there's justice for all, not just us. You do know that under apartheid, the notion of justice that informed the state was justice is just us. And President Nelson Mandela and his colleagues thought justice should transcend just us. Justice should be justice for all. But Section 25 at the moment has Section 25(8) that allows expropriation without compensation. But if you look at Section 25, there's a lot of room for land reform, for land restitution, and